I'd just like to open the meeting at 9:01 a.m, our ordinary meeting for the 25th of January 2022, and thank Council for their attendance. Also, I'd like to acknowledge our acting CEO, Edwina, and interim CEO from March. So welcome, and we'll look forward to working together. So.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, moving on to the agenda, we'll deal with...
We just have an apology from Council.
Sure. Okay, so we'll deal with that in attendances. So I'd like to move that we move a leave of absence for health reasons for Councillor Ladbrook. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, moving on to confirmation of the minutes of the ordinary meeting of the 8th of December. Do we have anyone to move on those minutes? Councillor Taylor.
I'd like to move that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 8th of December 2021 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, now talking about other minutes. Looks like here we've got a special meeting on the 10th of January, or do we have any others that councillors? Oh, the 16th, righto. Was that circulated separately, or was it in the agenda? In the agenda, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just double check.
So you're gonna let me in soon.
Just through the chair, we do have confirmation of special meeting minutes dated the 1st of December. What page are the meeting minutes for the 10th of December? 16th of December, I'm afraid.
Page 62.
Page 62. Thank you very much, Councillor O'Neill.
Now I just got
Oh, yep, no, they're there, so I've read them. Okay, now, righto, do we have anyone to move on the confirming the minutes of the 16th of December's special meeting? Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting held on 16th of December 2021 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, now what have we got left? What would
Special meeting.
page 90? Thank you. Okay, so does anyone wish to move on moving on the meeting from the special meeting minutes of the 10th of January 2022? Councillor McMullen.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that the minutes of the special meeting held on 10th of January 2022 be confirmed.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. So is there any others except for those 10th of January? That's it. Okay, so do we have anyone that wish to move on the minutes for the special meeting on the 10th of January 2022?
Didn't we just do that one?
Yeah,
We
that's
just
the one.
did.
Oh, we just did those, did we?
Yes, yeah.
Right.
Sorry, it's just a typo.
Righto, okay. Righto, sounds good. Okay, so do we have any consideration, notice of motion? Yep, what page? Righto, is it the beginning or,
92.
yeah, what page?
It's on 92.
92, thank you. Okay, notice or repeal or amendment of resolution order of the meeting of the ordinary 25th of January 2022. Item 8.1, confirmation of special meeting minutes, 1st of December 2021. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that Council repeal resolution number 0M-12.2021-05 on the basis that confirmation of these minutes was completed on an interim draft of the minutes rather than the final draft reviewed and issued by the Chief Executive Officer, and replace with that the minutes of the special meeting held on the 1st of December 2021 be confirmed with the following amendments. Item 6.2, correction of a typographical error when referring to Section 257 of Local Government Regulation 2012 rather than Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009. Council confirms its decision to delegate its powers under the Local Government Regulation 2012 to the Chief Executive Officer pursuant to Section 257 of the Local Government Act 2009. Addition of note item C1, page 7, in relation to point 1, addition of a note to clarify that 1, the interim CEO position is directly employed by Council, and 2, undertake a recruitment process contract through the recruitment. Contract is for the recruitment process.
Just checking on point 2, when it says contract through recruitment, is that correct?
Pre-recruitment.
Undertake a,
Recruitment. Yeah, so we just,
I didn't read, sorry, undertake a recruitment process contract through recruitment. Contact is for the recruitment process.
okay, do we have a seconder for that motion? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on.
Mr Mayor, I'm hesitant to raise this because everyone looks very comfortable. I just wonder, have we done the square meterage requirements for this room?
Oh, actually, yeah, we probably.
No, not in terms, it's very difficult to do the 1.5. I'm just saying there's a lot of us sitting in this space, collectively staff and council laws. Have we done the per square metre, how many people are allowed in a room?
Through the chair, we would actually have a figure. I can double check that. If I can just ask Cameron or Ken just to have a look at that, because clearly Councillor O'Neill's just picking up on the fact that we've got people sitting side by side. So if we could at least, as an absolute minimum, separate one seat a gap, one seat a gap.
We might just adjourn for a minute, and we'll get some more info and then come back.
Yep.
So, we'll keep going with the ordinary meeting. I believe we're up to 11.2. 11.1, 105, thank you. Okay, 11.1, monthly financial report as at 30th of November 2021. Do we have a mover?
I have a question, please.
Yeah, please go
Just
ahead.
wonder if, Manager Cindy could just briefly run through it with me down the line, as in
Sure.
what sort of shape it's really in?
Okay, so on page 106, the operating budget. So our operating revenue, we're at 39% of our budget at the end of November, which is a little low at the end of November. So the major factor with that is our flood restoration works. So as we ramp up with our flood restoration, more revenue will come in. So we did get an advance up front, but then we claim after we've done the
After
works.
you've done the work.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that should increase. Our operating expenses overall is at 41%, which is probably a little below on a straight line basis. Employee benefits, so you can see that top line there is at 36%. So that's mainly due to vacant positions, and our directors, our interim directors, are coming through under the materials and services line as opposed to employee costs. So we will need to do a budget amendment to move some money from employee benefits down to materials and services, just to recognise that they're not engaged as employees.
Is that because they're not paid by council, they're paid
That's
by?
right, so they're through,
or
is it
agency?
recruitment? Yeah. So they'll come through as materials and service costs as opposed to employee. But our budget allowed for them under employees.
Oh, yeah,
Costs,
okay.
yeah. So you can see the bottom line, net operating result. So our current budget total for the year is 307,000. At the moment, we're in deficit by 2.258 million. And that would be our revenues down. We're spending the money because of the
Yeah,
flood.
that's right.
Yeah, yeah.
So
The
you
flood
know-
money, sorry.
Do you know how much flood money is yet to come in then?
Um,
Well, that's the total there, the 17, isn't it?
7,
The current budget,
sorry, where are you?
recoverable works and sales revenue?
No, it'll be down under grant subsidies and contributions.
Flood
Oh,
restoration.
So the
sorry.
27 million,
Oh, yeah, got it.
so we've got an actual of 7 million, so,
Still 20 to come.
we've got, under this, the operating budget, I think it's 6.5 million in restoration works. So we did get a fair advance in last financial year, so, yeah. The recoverable works, that is down as well. So the airport is quite low on their revenue, which is to be expected, I guess. So, a 2.258 million deficit at this moment would be the revenues down, because our expenditure is on track.
Any other questions, councillors?
Through the chair, we just haven't got a seconder of that report yet.
No, that's
Yep.
right.
Happy to move that?
So you happy to move it? Do we have a mover or?
No.
Yes, we do, councillor Taylor, and we just don't have a
Councillor
seconder.
Taylor? Yep. Okay, do we have a seconder?
I haven't moved it yet, though.
Oh, you haven't moved it?
Haven't said anything.
Right, please go ahead then.
I'd like to move that the monthly financial report for the period ended the 30th of November 2021 be received and noted.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Item 11.2, extension of the register of pre-qualified suppliers, minor works.
So we have a declaration of interest.
Righto. Civil construction and maintenance. Councillor
Mr
McNaught.
Mayor, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. Items 11.2, extension of the register of pre-qualified suppliers for minor works, civil construction and maintenance. Myself, Councillor McMullen. I have a business arrangement. One of the contractors mentioned in the report, Roma Earth Moving Proprietary Limited. Type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Are there any other conflicts? Okay, so do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that Council 1 approve the extension of the register of pre-qualified suppliers for minor works, civil construction and maintenance, setting the new end date 31st of March 2024. 2, approve the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to update the deeds of agreement for an extension to 31 March 2024.
We have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
7-0.
We're to page 121 and yes.
11.3, monthly financial report as at 31st of December 2021. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burke.
I'll move.
Too slow there.
Councillor
You're
Burke.
right.
I would like to
Too
move
quick.
that the monthly financial report for the period ended 31st of December 2021 be received and noted.
Can I just ask a question, please?
Please, go ahead.
I'm just wondering there, Cindy, Manager Cindy, not sure. Cindy, Officer Cindy, sorry.
Yeah.
Just on page 124, just note there's government grants and subsidies there. It's pretty, like there's 29 million or 30 million, and then there's only 2.587349 coming in, 9%. So that's significant flood restoration revenue to be received as works progress. So what's this? Would you be able to elaborate on that? And also probably the one below it too, which is 18%. I'm just, but it says loan 18% it is. So they're both. Yeah, they're both on page, what is it, 124. Yep.
Yep, okay, so
Yeah.
sorry, yep, government grants and subsidies. So under the capital works, this one's under capital works, there is a $17 million flood restoration program. So similar to what I said before, so it's quite behind. And also under that government grants and subsidies, it's got the local roads and community infrastructure program, which we were approved $5 million, which we haven't programmed yet. We've been approved the money, but we haven't programmed or delivered the works, and potentially that is going to carry over into the next financial year. So we've sort of allowed a whole $5 million in our annual budget, but knowing that it's going to be carried over into next financial year.
Right.
So between those two, so 17 million in flood damage, 5 million in local roads, community infrastructure funding phase 3. Yeah. So we haven't expended that, so can't claim it as such yet.
Okay, and that'll significantly increase, not this year, but maybe next year. Well, next year obviously, but not this year.
That's
You
right,
know, we don't know yet. Yeah, we don't know
Yeah.
yet. Okay.
Yeah. One of the
No,
things
fair enough.
I talked with the acting CEO yesterday was we'll provide a more detailed breakdown of those government grants and subsidies, so you can see exactly which programs, what the budget is and what we spent, so it can give you more details. The next report will include more detail on that. and the project's capital. So once again, the revenue is for flood damage in government grants, and we've also got the expenditure in capital projects. So there's $17 million of flood restoration works that, we're a bit behind on expenditure.
Through the chair, Councillor Edwards, I can add, and certainly can have the director in the room that can add more detail, but clearly at 9% that we are quite behind for the year. However, the staff have actually put the necessary interventions into place to deliver the whole schedule by the due date, which is the 30th of June. So you've got roughly $20 million worth of work that has been programmed through to the 30th of June. There are a number of interventions that the staff have also put into place with commercial contractors to make sure that we have a backup plan in relation to our own program, because council is doing the majority of the work at this point. We do have a 89% of the works to be done is grading work. We do have a commercial grading and operator as well as drainage operator recently awarded tenders in relation to that. So by the end of February, our staff will be assessing where we're at and bringing in commercial contractors to deliver on time. As you know, it is QRA, so the work that is completed within the estimates will be paid. So regardless of whether it's council doing that work or a commercial contractor, the actual cost of that work will be paid. So certainly the staff have put some very good planning and interventions in place to make sure that we are where we need to be by the 30th of June.
Thank you, CEO, and thanks, Officer Sydney. Thank you.
And there's been no expenditure really. It's just we haven't got the revenue in, but we haven't really spent really much, have we?
We've spent, Cameron's not here,
Except for things that are not charged out because we haven't got that.
we spent $4 million this financial year, so on flood restoration works.
And have we charged that out back to QRA?
We got an advance last year,
so you're using that.
so we're sort of probably still using their money from last year. Yeah.
Righto. Any other questions, councillors? Righto. Did we had a mover? Did we have a seconder?
I'll second that.
Yep. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, so the next item. Item 12.1, Asset Management Plan, Water Network Revisions, November 2021. So this one, what were the changes with this one?
Mr. Mayor, the most substantial change this year is that I did a lot of work on the water renewals. We had a very big program for this next 10 years, and I went through all of the plans with the overseers from each area, and I also went through the customer requests for the last 3 years to see where there were actual breakages and leaks, and I've managed to shift a substantial amount of that into the next decade. So that's reduced our renewal burden over the next 10 years. But saying that, we discovered that if we push the pressure too high in Wallumbilla, the water mains break, so we're not achieving our firefighting flow. So we really need to replace all of Wallumbilla over the next sort of 10 years, the bulk of Wallumbilla mains. But at the end of the day, it does reduce our overall budget for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I'd like to move that this lay on the table until we've had a briefing with, we can only move, but you've got a substantial report in 12.2, haven't you?
Yes.
Which is the major one. which I think needs, is there any urgency with dealing with 12.1?
No, we just have to have it approved before we do our budget deliberations, because that feeds into the budget
So it's
deliberations.
the next budget.
And through the chair, 12.2 is actually a requirement that we actually update that every 5 years, and so that's the standards.
Yeah, so I'd like to move the 12.1 lay on the table, so we've had a briefing with 12.1 and 12.2, but we'll just deal with 12.1 at the moment. And all councillors can be brief, because this is a very important decision at council. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Item 12.2, adoption of revised water and sewerage customer service standards. Do we have any questions on this one?
Mr Mayor, I have a conflict.
Please go ahead.
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest on item 12.2, the adoption of revised water and sewerage customer services standards. Declaring councillor as myself. Person with interest is Threat Post News Proprietary Limited, owned by GL and JM Hancock, my husband and myself. Particulars of interest on page 142, section 7.4, payment methods of the document. It is listed that water and rates can be paid at any post office. Whilst previously I've had legal advice that I don't have a conflict, I would like to put it to council to make sure they are comfortable with the advice. Type of conflict is declarable conflict of interest. Action, although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I can remain and participate in the decision.
Okay, do we have councillor Taylor?
I'd like to move that it is in the public interest that councillor Hancock participates in votes in agenda item 12.2 because a reasonable person would trust the final decision was made in the public interest.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
7-0. Any other conflicts? I'd like to move that 12.2, adoption of the revised water and sewerage customer service standards, be laid on the table until we've had a briefing on this matter. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Page 145. 48, is it? Thank you. 148, item 12.3, asset management plan, sewerage network, revision 3, December 2021. I'd like to move that this lay on the table until council has had an opportunity to have a briefing on this document. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, so page 152. Item 12.4, reimbursement of plumbing invoice.
Just through the chair.
Conflict?
Please go ahead.
I've got a conflict on item 12.4, reimbursement of plumbing invoice. Declaring council as myself, Councillor John Burkett. Person with interest is my nephew Thomas Kennedy. Particulars of the interest: Thomas works for Roma Plumbing and they are mentioned in the report. Type of conflict is a declarable. The action I'll take is leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, Councillor Burkett has left the room. So I'd like to move to reimburse the owner of 7 Prince Street the amount listed on the invoice attached. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Okay, but we have a question. Councillor Hancock?
Through you, Chair, to Madam CEO, I just would like to check. Normally, when we move motions like this, we have, we actually add an additional an additional wording, which we can actually find in the closed document on page 22 of another case. I'm just wondering whether we need to be adding additional wording along the lines of the claimant agrees to accept the amount as a full and final settlement. So that's just through the chair to Madam CEO.
Can you just repeat the wording that you've just said there, councillor Hancock? What you think should be added to that?
It's enclosed. I'm just wondering,
Is it in the report at all? Because I'm happy to add it to my motion, so it's got no problem.
it's not in the report. It's just normally when we are doing this, there's an additional wording that is about, that reads something like,
So, Mayor, I'll move that this lays on the table until
Yeah.
later in the meeting.
All those in favour?
Yes.
Yes.
7-0. Okay, if we can get councillor Burkett back.
Yep.
So it's just that wording we'll find in other reports.
I'll be
It's an
able to help you
operational-
with that at morning tea or something
Yeah,
like that. if
fantastic.
that
Thank you
is
for that. Correct. Operational report shouldn't be there.
Yeah, I do too. That's what I'm asking.
Item 12.5, tender 220016, integration of dosing equipment with SCADA project. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council, 1, select HEC Enterprises Proprietary Limited as the recommended supplier for integration of dosing equipment to the SCADA network project, noting the tendered value of $318,629.26, including GST. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to enter into final negotiations with HEC Enterprises Proprietary Limited and form a contract to perform the integration of chemical dosing equipment with the SCADA network if the final terms are acceptable.
I'm happy to second that. I just got a question, but obviously it's a large amount of money. Is the benefit here to make sure it's more accurate, the dosing, or is there productivity savings in spending this money? Do you think we've called it?
One of the key reasons for this is to be able to get an alarm.
Yeah.
As soon as the dosing goes out of sync, that you get an alarm, because what we had in the past is that the chlorine slowly crept up, and by the time we got there and knew about it, the chlorine level was quite high. But there are financial benefits as well. For instance, the people in Mitchell go to Mangalala and Abbey every single day to check on it. Once we've got this on the SCADA and we've got our meters on the SCADA, there's no need for them to visit the town every day. They could visit every second or third day. And the same with the eastern towns, they don't have to visit every town, so it will pay for itself through the savings of going to visit the towns.
Any other questions, councillors? Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks.
Does anyone else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote.
Through the chair,
Yes.
did we get a seconder for that
Yeah,
motion?
I seconded
Yeah,
that.
thank you.
And there was no opposition. I forgot to ask that, but okay, no one else wishes to speak. We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Uh, 12.6, Risk Management Plan Utility Services, page 161. Do we have any questions, councillors? I'd like to move that this is there urgency with this? No. So I'd move that this lay on the table until we've had an opportunity for a briefing. And for 12.6. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, page 304. Item 12.7, water restrictions, watering schedule policy. You have a mover, councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council rescind the water restriction policy 2015 and adopt the watering schedule policy 2021 as tabled.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, any opposition? I'll speak in opposition. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Thanks very much, Mr Mayor. We've had over a long period of time, both in this term of council and previously, discussed the need for a policy around watering times and watering schedules. I think by and large the community accepts that we don't have a endless supply of water, particularly through the summer months, where it can put a drain if we're all watering at the same time to beat the summer heat on our network. And so I think this is responsible. This will be a responsible decision of council if supported today, and it maintains a long standing right across our region. Albeit in certain areas a little bit different in terms of the watering times and what the policy means. But I think it's an important step for us, and the feedback that I've had from the community has been positive, particularly when we identified that we needed to make a change to the watering times over the winter period to accommodate the cooler months and therefore the need to water during the middle of the day. So I think council needs to have this in place and look forward to council supporting it today.
Okay, I'll speak against the motion. The reason I won't be supporting this policy is not because we don't need some form of sharing of water times, because we do know that if everyone does water at the same time, it puts an enormous strain, and we don't want to see anyone going without water. But I do believe that I would like to see council being as friendly as possible, and I do not agree with some of the terminology. I do think it's very upsetting if someone gets a visit from council. I do believe that it should be more friendly wording, and I believe that would reduce the stress level. And I do believe the vast majority of people in the Maranoa will work with council, but I do not believe that, I do believe people can be affected or traumatised, which may not affect other people in terminology and how we basically make the wording for the different notices. So I believe that it should be more friendly edge to it, but I certainly support the fact that we do need to have shared times for watering to protect supply of watering to our network. Councillor Burkett,
I'd like to speak, Mr Mayor.
please go ahead.
I can only just speak on behalf of Mitchell, I suppose, but I know in the past when the population was bigger, we had smaller bore capacity. Now we've got larger bore capacity, more storage capacity, yet less population. We're still very stringent on, which I can understand. Everyone's got to be water-wise, and I think we need, and I said this last year, that we need to start promoting how to be more water-smart, more water-wise. Also, I think we've talked about this too, and I think we need to go to the next level, is about livability and rewarding the people doing the right thing, and also those that are starting to make the streets look a lot more pleasurable to look at, and want people to move to these smaller towns or any town in the Maranoa. So whether we look at a rebate or whatever for people looking after their footpaths, it looks better, but it saves the council staff. So I think moving forward we need to look at those sort of things as well. And I do agree we need to be to take the load off the bores by sharing the water restrictions. I understand that, but moving forward I think we need to look at rewarding the good people.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion, or Councillor
I'd
Taylor?
just like to speak as well. I thought we actually had the officers come in and explain to us how they did the infringement, how they dealt with it, and how, you know, no one's ever got an infringement notice or anything like that, that council are very kind to people when they talk to them about I don't see what the problem is with the way they do it. Shouldn't be.
Can I just say something? Sorry, Councillor Taylor. Yeah, I couldn't hear you then.
Sorry.
It was jumping in and out.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
I was just saying that we actually had one of the officers come in and explain to us the procedure that happened when it was infringement. And it sounded to me like they take as much care as they possibly can. And no one's ever had an infringement notice, so obviously it's not a real big deal.
Yeah. Can I say something?
Yeah, you could sort of speak
Mr.
for
Mayor,
or against the motion.
Yeah, I'm just thinking about the whole policy. That's all. I just don't know. I don't. You know, it's got to be somewhere. We've got to pass a policy. We've got to adopt a policy. We probably should be all going through the policy really, because it's a policy for the council and also for the community in the end. So, for the want of having a policy, maybe not happy with what's in it, but we need a policy. So all I'm saying is for the future, maybe we should be looking at these policies in more depth, rather than them coming to a meeting like this, where we're just adopting a policy.
Yeah,
And we've all got issues. We've all got issues with it. But I'm just saying that's my opinion on it. But, yeah.
Yeah, Councillor Edwards, it has come to council before and it's sort of gone away a couple of times, so council has had an opportunity to be informed about the policy, so that has happened.
Yeah, but being a policy, we've got a lot of policies in council, and I was thinking this is just another policy that we probably should be looking at. But anyway, certainly vote in favour of it because we need a policy.
Just through the chair, can I make a suggestion? Just listening to the comments around the room, you have a policy before you. You have the ability to amend it today. Is the real issue around the infringement notice? Is that the non-friendly bit? And as Councillor Taylor said, if we're not giving out those infringements, could the policy be amended not to have a penalty as such, but to actively encourage better water management across the region? Honouring the debate around the table about that you need to manage water. It's a scarce resource, it's a valuable resource, but it may indeed be the penalty side of it that council could consider removing from the policy and have just management practice rather than an enforcement role in relation to the policy. That would keep your policy alive and well, but also make it a little bit friendlier. And you could look at having enforcement at a later date or some other mechanism that might, I think the comment was, reward the good people.
Just in terms of a question, just so I'm clear, given that I've moved it,
Yes.
there's 3 steps here. First is the advisory notice, which seems quite mild if I look at the definition.
Yes.
Then it's a caution notice, and then if they continue to breach, it's an infringement notice. So there's quite a number of steps before it gets to the penalty. Am I right? Okay.
Just while we're having this, discussion, my opposition is rather than call it advisory notice, is to have something more friendly, as we've got steps and we don't. I'm happy with the rest of the process, but I believe the naming of the first one, it's been done in line with if you've got a dog issue or something, and I believe it should be more friendly because sometimes people get something from council and get really worried about it. So that's why I would have a different terminology for the first one, because it may never go back to any more issue. I didn't know what the watering day was or whatever. So it was really, because otherwise they might think that they're getting visits from community safety about as if they had their dog issue or something, which I understand there's legislation about that, so we need to. So that was if we want to be the friendliest council and do that. But anyway, that's just to inform the debate. We do have a mover and a seconder.
What's a softer term for advisory?
Well, just could be a heads up.
A heads up notice.
Yeah, a heads up. Well, really, the first one should be just to let you know.
That's what it is. By
Advice.
definition, that's what it says it's doing.
It is, but an advisory notice, like sometimes, and a lot of when there is a water issue, the first one's just a verbal thing anyway, just to say, did you know that your watering day is this day? Oh, no, I didn't know.
Just
No,
through
I
the,
think
yeah.
it's the delivery. I think we talked about it before. It depends on who says it and how they say it. Like, I could go up and tell someone to turn the tap off, and Councillor Taylor could do the same, but it depends what mood you're in and how you deliver it too. Like, could put someone offside.
Through the chair, would water usage notice satisfy that? It is actually telling them about their water usage. It is advice, but it's just calling it a notice of water usage, because obviously what you're trying to do is educate them around how much they're using. Be happy with it.
Does that soften to you, Mayor?
Yeah, no, water usage would be better than,
So I'd be water usage advisory notice. It's still got to be something, but
Yeah.
it's spelling out what it is.
or even to do, because the first issue would be they're not using it on the wrong, they're using it on the wrong time, aren't they?
Well, that's the water usage advisory notice.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm happy. I've got two amendments, and I'll amend that the policy states on page 305 the procedure allows for three forms. The first is a water usage advisory notice. Thanks to the acting CEO for that suggestion. And my second amendment I'd like to add is point 3. Is that a report be brought back to council with options on how to best disseminate the water usage policy to our residents, or water restrictions, water scheduling policy to our residents. For example, fridge magnets might be one. But I've just taken on board what Councillor Burke had said in terms of better water management and encouraging our residents. That might be one way that it's a permanent thing that they can put on the fridge. And we may include other things on there, just not this, to value add. But that's my amendment. Thanks.
Okay, so we don't need a seconder for that.
You'll have to check with the seconder if they're happy with my amendment, though.
Oh, right, okay. Yeah, is the seconder happy with that amendment?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. And I am.
So you're happy with that?
I agree. I think we've talked about the fridge magnet and the watering scheduling times. We've talked about that prior in council, and I think that's a really great idea to be on the front foot to educate people and let them know.
Righto. So that becomes the motion then, I believe.
It does.
So does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Then we'll go to the vote. This is the amendment, but that becomes the motion. Would you like to sum up,
Yeah.
Councillor O'Neill?
So I think this is a good example as to when we put our heads together, we can actually get something that, by the look of it, all 8 of us in this case today can agree on. I think we need to do more of this. It's ended up being a very minor change to the name of a notice, has the same outcome that has now, by the look of it, Mayor, changed your opposition to what I'd proposed. I think we've got to do better at having these broader discussions so that we can, particularly around the policy, because the ownership of policy rests with the councillors. And so I think this is a good outcome. As I said in my opening remarks, I think the community by and large have accepted that there is a requirement that we have a watering schedule in our community. We've got the nuance down in Surat, which has had long, heated debates over many years of how best to get that right for the raw water down there. But you look around the community now, particularly after the start to the summer period where we got that good rain, it's greened things up and people are keeping it green. And I think we need to work as best as we can to ensure that that continues. And if it's, as Councillor Burkett said, we look at some initiatives that give the pats on the back to the people that are doing the right thing in terms of water management, that can only be a positive for council. So I wholeheartedly support the recommendation.
Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Three 13.1.
Mayor,
Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor Gold, is that me you're asking? Yeah. I've got a conflict here.
On 13.1, is it?
Yes.
Righto, please go ahead.
Got to find it. Sorry.
So this is offer to purchase industrial land.
Oh, sorry.
So no, it's
sorry.
13 point, through the chair, councillor Edwards, it's,
13.1.
your
sorry.
advice to us is 13.2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so you don't have a conflict on this one?
No,
13.1, offer
Technology's a bit advanced in that area where he is. He's a step ahead.
to purchase industrial land in Mitchell, lot 23. Do we have a mover? Councillor,
I'm happy to move. I just want to
Burkett.
ask Director Norm. I spoke with Jack Jones the other day, and I think it covers it all avenues. If they decide to purchase or wanting to purchase in a year or two, they've still got their capabilities doing this way, what you've recommended?
To purchase the land, we would first need to call tenders.
Yeah.
Now, remembering that the block of, or lot 23 isn't actually the fenced area, it actually extends further to the north and west of the fenced area. So it would need to be reconfigured at some stage.
But it's still a possibility.
Yeah,
Sorry, can I just say something? Sorry, Director Norm. I've actually put in a request, and I don't know whether anyone else knows, but there's a company name there. I don't know who owns that company, who the directors are, and who the shareholders are. Is that apparent in anywhere?
you're talking about,
From a conflict point of view.
Trade.
Yeah. So, yes.
okay, we'll just adjourn and we'll get some
And
information.
we find that out. Yeah, sorry.
Righto, keep going with the meeting again. And we're on 13.1. We've just got asked for some more information. Do we have anyone to lay this on the table till later in the meeting? Councillor McMahon.
I'll do. Oh, okay.
Mr Mayor, I'll move this lay on the table till later in the meeting.
Okay. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Item 13.2, Cultural Heritage in June Preservation Society CHIPS sponsorship and in-kind request for in June centenary celebrations.
Just through the chair, councillor Edwards.
Councillor Edwards, have you got a conflict?
I do. Mayor Golder, item 13.1, description cultural heritage in June Preservation Society CHIPS sponsorship and in-kind request for in June centenary celebration. Declaring councillor is Councillor Mark Edwards. Person with the interest related party, associate or relationship is myself and Pam Tiderotto, my partner. Particulars of interest, the declarable conflict the declarable conflict of interest arises because Pam Tiderotto has a business arrangement with Blue Book Tours, who are mentioned in the in June centenary celebrations. On to be page 332. Type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and the action is I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Okay, any other conflicts, councillors? Righto, so Councillor Edwards, you'll head off now.
You're gone.
Sorry, yeah, I'm gone.
Righto, that'd be good. We'll give you a ring when we're back on, eh? When you're back on. Item 13.2, as we said, Cultural Heritage In-June Preservation Society, CHIPS, sponsorship and in-kind requests for In-June Centenary celebrations. I believe it was Councillor Guthrie that moved.
I'd like to move that council allocates $8,000 cash sponsorship in the 2021/2022 sponsorship budget to the Cultural Heritage In-June Preservation Society to host the In-June Centenary celebration in June 2022. Also to allocate a maximum of $12,000 in the in-kind support budget to the Cultural Heritage In-June Preservation Society to host the In-June Centenary celebration.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it?
I just have a question, Mr Mayor.
Please go ahead. Councillor Hancock.
Just wanting to know, I just note on page 327 that council has allocated budget for sponsorship in kind. These budgets have been fully committed. And the council's manager, economic and community development, has been unable to identify savings in other programs to transfer to meet this request. Council will need to commit additional funding. Where do we find that additional funding from? And can we, like, I'm not against it. I'd love to support them, but I just want to know where we pluck the money from.
Okay, can we just ask the officer, do we have any knowledge, or do we need to lay it on the table to have a look for it?
Look, through the chair, I can take that question on notice and circulate that to councillors after the meeting. If you feel that comfortable to make a decision without that information.
Well, normally we've said that we need to do that, so I move we lay it on the table till later in the meeting to
all right.
find where we can transfer the money to be able to do
This
that.
officer doesn't know the answer? No?
Sorry?
You don't know the answer to the question? No.
We've just been doing our Q2 review, so it is a little bit difficult to necessarily identify budgets from within budgets that I'm responsible for. But certainly we know that there's a big push to complete a number of the flood restoration works. So it may be a situation where some of our officers are going to be tied up doing that work, which means potentially some of our rural roads maintenance works won't be completed this financial year, which may realise some money from this particular operational budget. But we would need to confirm some of those numbers much closer towards the end of the financial year.
No problem. So I've moved that we lay it on the table till later in the meeting to find where we can transfer that from. And do we have any other questions?
Well, just based on the advice then, we may not be able to deal with this at the end of this meeting.
Well, I think we can. I normally think we can find somewhere, but I'm happy to move it to later on the meeting, and if not, a future meeting. But I think time is pressing and we need to get it sorted, so. Do you have a question?
I do, based on the information that was just provided,
Right.
Mr Mayor. So through you, Mr Mayor, I just, if we are thinking about, if we are thinking about where we're getting the money from, it is just always in the front of my mind that we say that 100% of rural rates go to rural roads. So if we're taking money from rural roads to do this, I would have concern. So I just wanted to put that forward as other options might come to the surface to be able to do this.
Certainly, look, through the chair, I think the way that the report reads, and I'll confirm this for you later in the meeting, is that there's two buckets here and that there is money in that second bucket, but I'll just make sure that that's accurate for you.
Thank you.
Righto, so I've moved that we lay it on the table till later in the meeting or a future meeting if needed. All those in favour? And Councillor O'Neill is, Councillor Edwards is not on the phone, so that is 7-0. Yeah. So if someone could ring Councillor.
morning tea before it comes back.
So
Is there?
I haven't heard it come in.
Just can't, I think, might have been what Emma just
Have
went.
it at 10:30, so
Oh, do
So
it?
it's
Oh, it was sort
10
of 10
past.
o'clock.
10:07.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good, we'll work it through it.
It is there.
Can we tell if councillor,
I texted him.
He said, he must be.
he's there? Okay, councillor
he's there.
Edwards, are you back?
He just said okay, so unless he's walking back in.
Burger. I want to text him, he's got the,
Yeah, no, I did text him, he said okay.
but his mic's off.
Oh,
He turns it on.
All good.
yeah.
All good? Righto.
I'm back.
Thank you. Item 13.3, in June notice board. Do we have a mover? Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council receives and notes the contents of the report in relation to a community notice board in Injune and resolve to take no further action at this time.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Item 13.3, in June meeting and training room. Do we have a mover? Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council receives and notes the contents of the report in relation to an alternative meeting and training room being developed in Injune and resolves to take no further action at this time.
Do we have a seconder? I'll second the motion. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion or against? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. So which one?
349.
349. Item 13.5, request for assistance, Mitchell Camp Draft.
I have a question.
I've got a conflict.
Please go ahead.
Item 13.5, request for assistance, Mitchell Camp Draft Association, declaring councillors myself, the interested related parties myself. I am the president of the Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club and the Mitchell Camp Draft Association are requesting assistance. The Camp Draft are under the umbrella of the Mitchell RSL and Combined Sports Club. Type of conflicts declarable. The action, I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Councillor Burkett's left the room. You got a question, Councillor Taylor?
I do. Director Norm, I just got a question on number 3, allocate the cost, the community groups in-kind assistance. There's no figure. Is there an amount?
Well, the cost will be whatever the cost it is to council, yet undetermined. It depends whether it takes 3 hours or 4 hours or whatever. So we don't know the cost. We don't think it's going to be more than $1,000 just to pull a fence down.
Oh, so you do have an estimate.
So it's a relatively small amount of money.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor O'Neill?
Through the chair, community groups in kind assistance. Is that the same bucket that we've just discussed on the project?
Yes, through the chair.
So it's been exhausted as well.
I think you'll find that the money's been divided up into each of the 5 areas, and there's some money available in the Baringa area.
Oh, I see. So the report on and the page, the element of 327 is relating to an allocation of in-kind assistance for Injune.
Yes, if you look at the cost number, 02947, that'll be common throughout all of the areas.
Yep.
2014 is the Baringa number.
Oh, okay.
Righto. Well, I'd like to move that council agree to assist the Mitchell Campdraft Association to clear and remove the existing fence between the Recreation Reserve and part of the stock route network to facilitate the erection of a new fence. 2, the Mitchell Campdraft Association ensure that the new fence is erected on the appropriate property boundary. 3, allocate all costs to 02947.2014 community groups in-kind assistance. And number 4, make an appropriate allocation to council's Q3 budget review.
I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Just given what Director Norm has shared, I'd like to move that this matter lays on the table until later in the meeting to get that breakdown per the geographical area. And I think an approximate cost needs to go into the recommendation.
Righto.
We need to know how much is in the budget, and it'd be good not just to have that for Baringa, but all of the areas. So, because that's new to me to understand that was broken down like that, but that's good if that's the case. So I've moved that we lay this on the table until we receive that information.
Till later in the meeting, is that correct?
Well, no, until we receive that information. So that's,
Well, hopefully.
after morning tea, you could deal with that.
Yep.
Righto. All those in favour?
Yes.
7-0. Item 14.1, Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs.
And we just through the
Councillor
chair.
Taylor?
We'll have
We just have
conflict.
a couple of conflicts.
As I do.
You go first then.
We're going to
I'd like to declare a conflict with item 14.1, the Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs. The declaring councillor is Councillor Julie Guthrie, myself. The particulars of the interest is that I'm a committee member on the Roma Rural Student Hostel. The type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and I would choose to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
I too have a declaration of interest on 14.1, the description being the Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs. The person with the interest is myself. The particulars of the interest, I'm the chair of the Roma Rural Student Hostel Committee. The type of conflict is a prescribed conflict of interest, and the action is to leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
I too have a conflict on 14.1, Roma Rural Student Hostel Residence Bathroom Repairs. Declaring councillor is myself, Wendy Taylor. I'm a committee member for the hostel. Is a prescribed conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Yeah, one.
Yep.
5.
Yeah.
5, yeah.
Okay, so Councillor Edwards, you're still on the line?
Yes, still here.
Righto. We do have a quorum. Okay, I'd like to move that council acknowledge the need to complete major renewal works in the house parents' bathroom at the Roma Student Hostel. 2, include the project as part of the next budget review. And 3, write to Roma Rural Student Hostel Association, or whatever their correct name is, and ask whether they would be able to partner with council in being able to do the, whether it's an upgrade or whatever, to be able to make it happen earlier, because they might have some capacity to be able to do that. They might not, but we could hear from them. So that's 3. Right to RRSH committee, and ask them if they'd be able to partner with council and been able to do the upgrade to be able to make it happen earlier than council could if capacity allows. Okay, do we have a seconder for that motion?
Could you, sorry, Mayor Golder, could you just read that out again?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
I can't see it.
The third point is write to RRSH committee and ask if they would be able to partner with council in being able to do the upgrade to be able to make, the bathroom upgrade. We could put bathroom in there. Make the bathroom upgrade, make it happen earlier than council could if capacity allows. So basically what I'm saying is they might have some funds that they said it's really important, they might be able to partner with us to do the bathroom upgrade. And we're asking the question as well as doing point 1 and point 2.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Hancock.
Thank you.
Mr Mayor, I'm just wondering if you consider just change to some of the wording.
Yeah, I'm happy to.
I just think if we said and ask if they would consider
Yep.
in partnering with council. Partnering with council. In the bathroom upgrade project. To be able to make it happen earlier than council could if capacity allows. It just doesn't quite, and I don't quite understand what it means by if capacity allows. I understand what you're trying to get at. I just think we need to finesse the wording a little bit before this goes out in a letter.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to. I don't mind. It's basically saying it might happen quicker if we can partner.
I understand what you're getting at.
Through the chair, potentially the wording bathroom upgrade project in order to, might be a bit too many projects here, right to RRSH committee and ask if they would consider partnering with council in the bathroom upgrade project in order to expedite the project within the 21-22 financial year. I just would flag that your next budget review is actually February the 8th.
Yeah. Manager, did you have something?
I was going to suggest the word expedite as well, so
Yeah,
that's
good.
still covered.
Yeah, that's good. No, I think that. Councillor Hancock, are you happy with that, or?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that, and I'm happy with that. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Can I ask for it to be read out again, please?
Yeah, sure. 3, write to RRSH committee and ask if they would consider partnering with council in the bathroom upgrade project in order to expedite the project within the 2021-22 financial year. That's the third point. The rest is as per the recommendation.
I just have one more question, Mr. Mayor.
Sure.
Through you, Madam CEO. That's not committing us to any, it's not committing us, because obviously we have to go through that budget process, is it?
So through the chair, thank you, Councillor Hancock. Yes, your budget review is very close, within the next month, but that does allow you to actually start a negotiation process that potentially could impact that budget review in a lesser way, which would be quite advantageous for council.
Into both. Yep. Okay, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
5-0. we can get councillors back, thank you. Page 362, I believe, item 14.2, request for consideration of control of African lovegrass. Do we have a mover, councillor Guthrie?
I'd like to move that council receive and note the letter as presented. Number one, council receive and note the letter as presented. Number two, council be provided with a report at an upcoming meeting on the delivery of the biosecurity plan. And three, sorry? That's where we've already done. Sorry, let me move along and go to the next one. Thank you. At the bottom. Sorry, I'm looking at the dark print and going with dark. I'd like to move that council, one, receive and note the correspondence from the Wallumbilla Town Improvement Group. And two, receive and note the correspondence from the Mitchell and District Land Care. And three, invite Mitchell and District Land Care to submit a proposal for the funding of research project for Eragrostis curvulea, Eragrostis trifora, Eragrostis pilosa, and I hope I'm presenting some of these correctly. And Eragrostis silanesis under the Land Protection Fund. And four, write to the Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries requesting that A, the Minister consider the declaration of Eragrostis curvula, Eragrostis trifora, Eragrostis pilosa, Eragrostis silanesis as restricted species under the Biosecurity Act of 2014. And B, the woody Eragrostis complex including E. curvulea, E. trifora, E. silanesis and E. pilosa be reassessed within the weeds of national significance framework by both the federal and state government.
I just didn't hear number 4. Could you
You can read, Councillor Birkett.
see how they threw one around the other way too, just to catch you?
Yeah.
And did you mean the weedy?
Mr Mayor,
Yeah, I thought you said
The weedy, not the
yeah.
woody?
Woody?
The
Weedy.
weedy.
Councillor McMullen speaking.
I'd like to, I'm happy to second it, but I'd like to recommend an amendment of a doc point 5
Right,
to further investigate the, what's the word I'd use? The proposed, wouldn't be, there's supposed to be the pellets come on the market very shortly, early this
Well, they're
year.
actually available, Mr Mayor, they're
They're
actually available now. They're in Roma.
Investigate the costing of purchasing pellets if required, yeah. Right, that's,
Through you, Mr Mayor, the costing of the pellets is actually referenced in the report.
oh, is it? It's not in the, through you, Mr Mayor, it's not mentioned in the resolution, like the, is that, am I? No.
Through Mr Mayor, page 370, Councillor McMullen.
so, councillor McMullen, did you want to put something in about further, like investigate us, council using it or
Oh, yeah, well, that's,
doing something with it, with the pellets? Do the officers have any comment there? Is there any plan to do?
Through you, Mr Mayor, in the report, we have actually budgeted the fixed costs associated with using the pellets and done a forward costing over a 10-year period in relation to using the pellets.
So basically, if this goes forward, we will be using some? I'm not sure. Do we need direction from council for that or?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the use of pellets is something that probably needs to be discussed in some detail. There are issues with the use of the pellets, certainly around withholding periods on grazing, and the use of those pellets on the stock route network may have a significant impact on the movement of livestock to and from the Roma sale yards for sale.
Well, you've got there further investigate council and initiating the use of pellets. That's pretty broad, isn't it?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I'm happy with that. If- Oh, well, that's an amendment of it.
so is the mover happy with that? So that will be the motion
I'm
now. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak for or against Councillor Hancock?
I just wonder, Mr Mayor, given what Officer Kent's just said, do we need to have a briefing on it? Because it sounds like it's a bit bigger issue. I guess if the officers feel that, they can put it forward through the CEO and ask for a briefing.
Through the chair, certainly at some point your resolution, if passed, is actually asking that information to come back to council, and it's good practice to come through a briefing to explore whether you've got enough information before we bring it to council. So certainly can do that, and it's really just making sure we're scheduling that for you.
Thank you.
Right, so it can happen anyway, probably. Okay, does anyone else wish to speak? I'll speak. Oh, Councillor Guthrie, please go ahead.
I just would like to really emphasise the fact that this is of increasing concern to a lot of people in the Maranoa, and it's being raised at a number of the different meetings. And I think that whatever we can do to proactively address or to move forward with regard to the love grasses, and there's a whole pile of different types, I think it would be really favourably considered by all, but I think it's also a step forward for us and for the wider community.
Okay, Councillor Taylor?
I'm just wondering if Manager Kay's got anything she wanted to say?
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Through you, Mr Mayor. Should council want the use of pellets, it will significantly increase our budget. We currently have absolutely no budget whatsoever for that type of treatment and for the extensive area. And I'd also like to advise the council that if we do use pellets, doesn't matter what country it's put on, if stock or graze there, they must be withheld 14 days or the appropriate days till they go to slaughter. So you might treat it now, and in 50 years' time, those cattle or sheep or whatever it might be still have to go through that withholding period. It never, ever goes away from that piece of land.
So through Mr Mayor, so Manager Kay, so if Joe Blogg sold his block, he'd have to disclose all that, where he's put it. You know, like, geez, that's going to be messy, isn't it?
Through you,
Like
Mr Mayor.
If they forget, like, the bottom block they did it and you know, mate pops off the tree, he doesn't even know.
Yep.
Just opens up a big can of worms.
Through you,
Big can
Mr
of
Mayor.
pellets.
Thanks, Councillor Burkett. We've got an issue up around Womblebank now. We didn't know that the land was being treated. Our stock route, our road reserve has been treated. It has been looked at by DAF, and we didn't know until we went to the meeting at Dunkeld that the land was being treated, so now we've got an issue with our stock routes.
Plus kangaroos. That never got brought up out there. The amount of kangaroos that are going to be doing, but they're the ones. Anyway.
I'll speak to the motion. I believe this is a good motion because it gives direction for officers to go and have a look at it. And obviously with any chemical that you put on or anything you do, you have to do your risk assessment and how we can manage that safely. And is there other treatments, or is this the best treatment? If it is going to preclude, like, which is the worst danger? And are there other ways? So I just believe this motion is about saying it's important, and also to have a look at what the situation is with pellets, and if it has some negative issues, can they be managed or can't they, or is there other options or whatever? So I think we should be definitely getting that information back, but it at least puts it on the agenda. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? Does the mayor wish to sum up?
No, I think we've had enough conversation. I do think that the agenda item and the wording of the motion is very comprehensive.
Righto, we're going to go to the vote.
Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, can I just, what was the amendment? Can you just
sure,
advise me
read
what's
that out.
changed? Just what's changed. I've got the original points 1 to 4. What was the last one? 0.5, was it?
Well, point 5 was further investigate council initiating the use of pellets for consideration at a future briefing.
Okay, thank you, councillor Guthrie.
Okay, so we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
Can I just ask,
Well,
just the wording of 5 suggests that we're going to consider that. Is that discuss it at a future briefing?
yeah, discuss.
It can't be considered because that has to be at a council meeting.
Yeah. So is the mover and the second happy with discussion instead of consider? Yeah. Righto. So we'll go to that vote again. We've already done, I think, all 4. All those 4?
Yes.
8-0. Excellent. Okay, so I think we're up to 14.3. Tender 22012, sale of vacant land, Yulbar, lot 28 on Y22124. Councillor Hancock?
I move that Council 1 accept the offer submitted by the Trustee for Allwood Family Trust for tender 22012, sale of vacant land located at Bedwell Street, Yulbar, lot 28 on Y22124. 2, delegate authority to the Chief Executive Officer to sign the documentation necessary to finalise the sale.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Page 496. 14.4, approval. And I think it might be partner with Reclaim Recycling for collection of solar panels at Roma Waste Facility. Councillor McMullen.
Mr Mayor, I'll move that council receive and note the officer's report. The information provided is for council consideration and possible direction to Regional Waste Services.
Can I ask a question with that? This PV recyclers, do they do a really good job on recycling, or do they take bits of it, or what? What are they? What's the history of them?
Mr Mayor, we have never used them before. They have approached council to recycle any solar panels that come through. They are going to put the equipment here for us to store it, and then they'll take it away. No money's changing hands at this point. I think in the report I've suggested that we only do it for till the end of this year, end of 2022, and see what processes they do and how we can see how they've gone.
Righto. So would the mover be happy to put in there that we get some information back, as well as just, so does this give you enough, that recommendation is enough that you can just go and do it for a year? Is that your theory, or do you need more direction than that, or is that enough and you can deal with it?
That would be enough, Mr Mayor, for us to be able to liaise with them. I'd like to ask them some more questions about the monetary side of it, because I see it as a resource, and I think that council should be paid for the resource that comes to our waste facilities, doesn't matter where it is. But at this point in time, there's no other recycler available for solar panels.
Yeah. So would the mover be happy to put a second point in there for council to receive information on the level of recycling, so we know in the future what they're doing with these panels? As far as, you know, are they just taking the scrap out of them, or, you know, just more for benefit? Because I know the community want us to recycle where we can. So what the level of recyclability would be. So would the mover be happy to put something in there?
Mr Mayor, my understanding, I might have misunderstood what Officer Kay said, they're going to take the panels away, holus bolus.
Yeah, they are, but we don't know whether they're just like pulling the aluminium out of them or the whatever, or whether they're really recycling them, because that's like a benefit to the long term, what happens to them. Because, you know, some of the recycled product is actually just dumped in landfill. So this is about getting some more information about what they do. It's not affecting what they're doing, like you'll be just still going on with it, but I'd be interested in get something back in the future about what do they actually do with the panels. So from that side.
I'm just a little bit reluctant. I know what you're saying, but I'd hate to miss the opportunity to get rid of our solar panels in the interim.
No, this is not about changing what happens. This is actually about getting information, what they actually do with the panels. So as far as I understand, for the next 12 months, we're going to engage these people to do it. So that's what's actually happening. But I'm interested to know what is actually happening, what level of recycling do they do? It's not changing whether we use them or not. Yeah, because I do think even though you can't get anyone else, eventually things will become valuable.
Yes.
Just with components and so forth.
Maybe it would be provided further information on the level of recycling at the end of the year, end of the term, at the end of the term.
Yeah, that's it. So we just know what, as a council, we know what they're doing with them. Like they're pulling them all apart. They're using this for that. They're using. Councillor Hancock.
Through you, Mr Mayor, I've actually just a bit confused with the recommendation as well. We're receiving a note in the officer's report, which is right, but then the information provided is for council consideration and possible direction to regional waste services. To me, we can't have consideration in that because we are considering, and then what is it that we are considering today, and what outcome do we need from today, if any, other than receive and note the officer's report as an update for the project? I'm just
through the chair, Councillor Hancock, I think you're right. In the executive summary, it's actually saying the attached agreement is for council to act as a collection point at the Roma waste facility. So potentially adding those, you know, that to the recommendation that we actually agree to the recycling manufacturer, reclaim PV recyclers, to act as a collection point at the Roma waste facility. So repeat that information, because you're right, it's an information point, a report at this point. If we need to make it an agreement, we do need to have that in the recommendation.
And I understand why the officer put it in the recommendation. They were actually informing us to consider something, and so now we need to consider that and have an appropriate recommendation.
Is the mover happy just to state that we'll be using them as a collection, will be a collection point for PV? Councillor McMullen?
So what are you going back to the original?
Well, just actually stating that we're actually approving for them, that we're going to be a collection point for PV recyclers for a period of 12 months, or do you want a time on it? Or
there'll be one, receive a note the officer report. Two, council
Agree.
approve agree to being a collection point.
Yes, agree.
And through you, Mr Mayor, could I just say in 3, when Cal brings it up, instead of be provided further information, can we put in there that a report be completed on the level of recycling after the term of the agreement?
Through the chair, you could request that the Reclaim PV Solar Panel organisation actually provide council with a report around the recyclability.
That's right.
Of the solar recycling panel program.
Yes.
So you could you could put that back to your provider.
Yeah, to the provider.
so nothing
Does that
is,
make sense?
yeah, nothing is changing, that if this goes through, we'll be doing it, which is point 2, which is saying we're doing it.
Yes, and then through the chair, just Councillor McMullen just raising the ability to get more information to educate council about the benefits of that program.
Righto. Righto,
Is the mover happy with that?
Yeah, I'll read it out now, again. At council, 1, receive and note the officer's report. 2, agree
to act.
agree to act as a collection point at the Roma waste facility through Reclaim PV recycling. And 3, be provided a report from Reclaim PVC Recycling on the level of recycling after the term of the agreement.
So would 2 read, number 2 read, agree to act as a collection point of the Roma waste facility.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I read out.
Reclaim PV recycling. Not through.
Oh. For reclaim, okay. Waste facility for reclaim PVC recycling.
Councillor Edwards, do you understand the motion?
Yeah, could you read it out again, please?
Righto, 1, receive and note the officer's report. 2, agree to act as a collection point at the Roma waste facility for Reclaim PV recycling. 3, be provided a report from Reclaim PVC recycling on the level of recycling after the term of the agreement.
Yep, I understand that. Mhm.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? Certainly will. I do believe any way we can recycle is a benefit, and I do believe that eventually we're going to become a circular economy when it comes to our resources, and we can't just keep digging new stuff out and not trying to use what we've already created. So I think this is a good initiative for our waste facility, but even more importantly, I'd like to see that the community believes that we need high levels of recycling, not people think it's recycling and then it's dumped anyway, most of it. So, yeah, I think this is very positive. Anyone else wish to speak?
I just
I have a question.
Oh, go.
A question
Yeah.
through the chair. Given it's an agreement, shouldn't it be that council, and I don't know if this is the exact wording, but council delegate to the chief executive officer to sign the agreement? And that encompasses that we're going to act as a collection point, and it's for the period in which the agreement has been presented? That's what we've normally done with any agreement.
Yeah.
We did it just previously.
Look, through the chair, I think that probably improves the recommendation and just gives a clear instruction to staff.
So to be something along the lines of council delegate authority to the chief executive officer to sign the recycling service agreement with Reclaim PV Recycling.
Okay, now is the mover happy with that change?
Is that as it is there now, is it?
Yes.
So to be
Delegate.
sorry, councillor Hancock.
Yeah, it was delegate.
Delegate the authority to the chief executive officer
Yep, to sign.
to sign the recycling service agreement. Delegate the authority to the chief executive officer to sign the recycling service agreement with Reclaim PV Recycling.
It's got to have the collection point in it, though.
It's in the
In the agreement.
it's in the agreement.
Yeah, look,
Oh,
through
it's
the-
okay.
yeah, just through the chair, the council, you're endorsing the agreement, which is
Okay.
great. And all it is that you're giving instruction to me to go off and sign that.
And it should be delegate the authority of the CEO or delegate,
Sure,
because, yeah, you might want to delegate it.
sure.
Now, is the mover happy with that?
Yeah, I'm happy with that, Mr Mayor.
Righto.
Do we need to read it out again for the benefit of?
We might have to do the bit we changed.
No, dot point
Councillor
two.
Hancock, are you happy with that?
Yep, thanks, Mr Mayor.
Okay.
Point 2, delegate authority to the chief executive officer or delegate to sign the recycling service agreement with Reclaim PV Recycling.
Councillor Edwards, you got that?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
I'm just going to say, Mr Mayor,
Mullen?
I think it's a good initiative to get on the front foot with the recycling of the solar panels, because in some years to come we're going to be inundated, not just here with used solar panels.
Okay, no one else wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0.
I'm not sure how, you've got some later.
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
do
late.
those
Oh, we
afterwards?
normally do late
At the very end? At the very
now,
end? Oh, okay.
if we've had enough time to read it. Has everyone had time to read the late?
Got the information back for those two later.
We got those other two? Righto.
I certainly took through the chair.
Righto, so what items were they, Kel?
Let's just adding that in.
Okay, thank you.
No, 12.
12.4.
Just wait till we call it first. Yep, correct. Okay, item 12.4, reimbursement of plumbing invoice. Councillor Burkett's already declared a conflict and is leaving the room and has left the room. We got some information on that, I believe. So who was moving that?
You moved it and Councillor Edwards seconded it at the time.
Righto.
On the screen is alternative motion provided by
Okay, I'd like to move that council reimburse the owner of 7 Prince Street the amount listed on the invoice attached as full and final settlement of the claims arising from the incident on 9th of September 2021. Is Councillor Edwards happy with that as a seconder?
No, I'm happy with that.
Okay, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? I do believe our residents in the Maranoa are reasonable people, and I believe every way that council can act reasonably is of the benefit of our residents and actually makes for a more efficient operation of the local government. Does anyone else wish to speak? Then we're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. 7-0. Good point.
Do we have another one?
Yes, we've got through the chair. We've got 2 more.
13.1. Do we have a page there, please?
Yes.
That's page 317.
317.
Thank you. Okay, we're on page 317, item 13.1, offer to purchase industrial land in Mitchell, lot 23. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that council offer to enter into a non-exclusive access agreement over lot 23 on CP 861824 to enable the adjacent landowner more convenient road train access to lots 14 and 15. Review the availability of appropriately sized industrial land in the Bringa Mitchell area and a further report be presented to council in 2022.
We have a second, Councillor
Mr.
McMullen.
Mayor, I'd like to move, second it with an amendment, if we could, please. I think I suggest we put in dot point 3, council do or obtain a report to look at realigning the boundaries on that spare block, because as we are aware, it dissects a building. Excuse me, so realigning the boundaries on those blocks, the two individual.
Director Norm, do you know what that motion is? Does that make sense, or do you have any comment?
I was going to include that as part of the tender, that the successful tenderer would be responsible for realigning those boundaries and applying for a...
Reconfigured lot, yeah.
Oh, sorry, but we're not selling it. There's no need to realign the boundaries if we're just...
No. I mean, for future, for you,
Just a reconfiguration of the lot.
because one day it
Yeah,
might,
look, there could be some advantage in amalgamating the lots that the council depot are on to reflect the fence line. But it's not something that I'd do if it wasn't dependent on something else. The lots are used within the fence line as if it was one property, but there's additional property outside the fence line, and it really doesn't matter one way or the other what we do with it, whether it remains as 5 separate lots or whether we reconfigure the lot to exclude it. It might make it easier down the track to sell that lot.
that's what
If
that's
what's
what I'm trying
got
to,
in mind.
yeah, because council don't really use it, do they?
Car
Well,
park.
there's a bit
Well,
of,
1, 2 cars, I think, yeah.
Yeah, oh, there could be more, yeah, but
Yeah,
So, councillor McMullen, would you be interested in putting in there what you've got there, but also, you know, another point that, you know, if we do look at selling the block in the future, have we got enough access? Like if we're taking away where people park cars or, like, some of this is finite to have a look, you know, because if we're gonna make that decision down the track, maybe to do something, what other options, and should we be looking around that area now? Because, yeah, like, rather than just saying one day we'll sell it, well, yeah, I think we've got to have enough growth for the depot at Mitchell and also other industrial situations. So is there anything else we can do in that area? Councillor Taylor?
I've just got a question on review the availability of the industrial land. Didn't we already do that in Mitchell?
We did, but this is actually to do with our main workshop depot. It's
Just
pretty,
saying, industrial land in Baringa.
well, we did have one because we were looking at selling some other land, which we did sell.
Yeah, so I think we looked at all the available industrial land in Mitchell at the time. I think Manager Tanya did, didn't she?
But it might be if we sell something, we create something as well, you know, in that area. So that's the thing. I think if you maybe asked, you know, what's strategically best for the depot, they might go, well, we need that. But there's benefit for the community in other ways, so how can we look at it as a total? Councillor Burke?
oh, just with the existing depot, I think there's probably room underutilised there. That's whether it's got storage or just not used anymore. That probably could be, you know, tidied up to hopefully make access for people to park their cars or whatever.
Councillor O'Neill?
Just a point in point number 1 of the resolution. It probably should document who this non-exclusive access agreement is with. I mean, we know it's in the body of the report, but in terms of the recommendation, it should be to enable Nutrilink, more convenient road train access rather than just saying adjacent landowner.
Yeah, that's right. Probably open up to the bloke across the road that'd spin around in it.
Well, when you want, I mean, the community want to know what decisions we're making. Let's not make it hard for them. They'll see it in the resolution.
my reasoning beside dot point 3, we're going to give non-exclusive access to get the trucks in and out there, so what else can we do with the block? We're going to come back and say, oh, no, you can't have that then. They've been using it for 50 years or 30 years, whoever the... Not the same people, but that...
No, what I mean is if there was any thought that maybe it might be something we sell in the future, what's our opportunity? So we just haven't lost, you know, we've sold these other blocks, and then if we sell, well, we're not selling it today, but if the motivation was to get the boundaries right, so we may do something with it.
I'd like to see, as I've put, provide a report regarding realign the boundaries of the spare block. That could cover, how would you believe, we're bring the boundary right down to where this block is, so that they're only getting a little bit of our block instead of, I don't know what direction we're talking, probably the north, but towards the council depot where they've only got a man gate and there's a few cars parked there, there's probably well over half that block if we were to subdivide it and sell it put it up for sale and just in line with the neighbouring block. That makes...
So you think there's enough land still there for future development? If we
For
sold
future extension of the current council workshop block, yeah.
Yeah,
Through Mr Mayor,
that's the bit I was, yeah.
the two blocks, you continued the boundary between 14 and 15 due east. It'd split that block up, car park end and where they drive
That's
out.
what
But
I'm
I
trying
think-
to explain,
Yeah, but I think they want to they're looking at putting a big shed on, say, 15, the one closest to the depot, and they might want more access.
Yeah.
But with non-exclusive, that still gives the opportunity for staff to park in there. So,
Lot Point Tree's not making any commitments, we're just going to get a report on it, what it would be involved in that.
Yeah, but, yeah,
Be provided with a report regarding the realignment and the positives and negatives of
Realigning.
the positive and negatives of realigning opportunities of realigning the boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously the cost would come back in that as well, how much it costs to realign.
Councillor McMullen, is that, you happy with that? Or?
Yeah, that's fine, that'll give us enough, yeah. Because like, one day something's going to have to be done because the boundary goes straight through the shed. So irrespective of what happens, there'll have to be a realignment one day.
Through whose shed?
Council shed.
Yeah.
It's built on 2 blocks, so one of the sheds, yeah.
So through the chair, you've got a lot that in its current state has encroachments by council infrastructure. And so if you were to release that, you would need to reconfigure that lot unless you wanted to move your shed. The decision you're making today is not to walk down that path, it's actually just to provide access to the applicant, knowing that their preference was to purchase, potentially based on the conversations to add additional infrastructure. So that number 3 is to consider, you know, what the cost and the opportunities would be of a reconfiguration of that lot.
Yeah, that's in a report.
That's your amendment, though.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
The mover hasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to be provided with a report regarding the opportunities of realigning the boundaries on the spare block, including cost estimates, yeah.
Yeah, cost estimates.
Move it down a little bit, Kel, please, but don't see the mover. You might be able to.
It's
Thank you.
yeah,
Yes, yeah, I think you're
Councillor
right. Mark.
Burkett, happy with that?
Just
amendment?
through the chair, Director Norm's suggesting that we actually just put the lot number there, lot 23. Is that right? Yes.
Rather than looking at the spare block.
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes,
yeah.
that could be anywhere.
Fine, yeah.
On lot 23. Thanks, Norm.
down the bottom.
Number 3, Cal, instead of spare block, realign the
Second
boundaries
line.
on lot 23.
Yep.
Maybe on, well, it's all up the top there, lot 23 on, whatever that is.
Righto, is the mover happy with that amendment?
I'm happy with that's in there or not. I think it's down the track when they do decide that they're right, they want to purchase it. At least we've got that information. We can say, yes, well, we can still use this block if you're happy with just half of it. So yeah, no, I'm happy with that. Do you want me to?
You're happy to have the 3 in there?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Did you want to read out 3 for the benefit?
Number 3, be provided with a report regarding the opportunities of realigning the boundaries on lot 23 on CP 861824, including cost estimates.
Okay, councillor
Thank you.
Edwards, you understand that? Thank you.
Yeah, the first 2 dot points haven't
Changed.
Oh, we did put Neutralic in there. Did you?
So, and I just want, my suggestion would be offer to enter a non-exclusive access agreement over lot 23 with CP on that, with Nutrilic to enable more convenient road access. The agreements with that
Yes,
entity.
that's right.
Councillor Hancock?
Mr Mayor, I've actually been thinking about what Councillor Taylor said, and I agree. I just wonder if we have to have number 2 in there. the order is a little bit confusing to me, because we're talking about entering into an agreement,
That's what 2 and
and
3.
then we're doing number 3, you know, we want a report regarding that, but number 2, when review the availability, that's actually not for this request at this time, because this request at this time is for that portion of land. They're not actually requesting what other availability is there in Mitchell. They're actually just requesting for this portion of land. So it's a bit confusing with the order, so I'd actually swap the 2 and 3 as a suggestion to the mover.
Yeah, makes sense.
So the mover's happy, is the seconder happy with that?
Change.
Yeah, I'll read that again, Councillor Edwards, for you.
3 becomes 2, Kelly.
Thank you.
Great.
Just wait for it to come up.
Or it's the same, Councillor Edwards, do you want to just explain
No,
what the
there's-
difference?
well,
Or
we've
we've
changed.
added something, have we?
Yeah.
Had something else in it, yeah.
Okay, often into non-exclusive access agreement over lot 23, CP 861824 with Neutralic to enable more convenient road train access to lots 14 and 15. 2, be provided with a report regarding the opportunities of realigning the boundaries on lot 23 on CP 861824, including cost estimates. 3, review the availability of appropriately sized industrial land in Baringa, Mitchell area, and further report be presented to Council in 2022.
Thank you.
Righto, so the mover and seconder is happy with that?
Yep.
I understand. Does the mover wish to speak to the motion?
Yes,
Another question, sorry.
Please go ahead.
What's the time frame? The non-exclusive agreement is for
Well,
what
this-
period?
It's sort of needs, well, it's been
I
getting
think
used.
the idea was a standard time of 2 years, it can be extended beyond that. If you have the time frame too long, you know, the ownerships might change or the uses might change, so you've got to be flexible enough to account for that.
I wasn't thinking the long-term, short-term. If we come back with a report that's looking at the realigning of boundaries and we've entered in a non-exclusive agreement for 2 years, that might...
Limit
Yeah,
what we can do with
council.
the land within that period of the agreement, yeah.
So it's how quickly can we look at point 2? You know, do we offer a 6-month agreement in the first instance to address number 2, to know what we could do in the long term? And the long term may be to offer them a longer period of non-exclusive use, but it might be to go a different path, and that's to, as has been suggested elsewhere in the report, to sell part of it.
My experience has been to reconfigure a lot might take, 6 to 12 months.
So do you do 12 months then, rather than 2 years as an agreement in the first instance?
But the only question is that I think the most important thing is to give them access for a local business. So how do we do that without extinguishing, you know, things always take longer than you think they're going to be? Whether that...
Through the chair, you can give them, just picking up on the conversations around the table, you could say for a period of 12 months with an option to renew for another 12 months, so that you've just got something that's really quite easy to enact.
Gives them some certainty, allows
yes.
flexibility to explore point 2.
Yes.
Now, is the mover and the seconder happy with that?
Yep.
Is the seconder happy with that?
Yeah.
Righto, so that's the motion.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what was the period of time?
What's the motion again, please?
Period of 12 months with an option to extend.
He mustn't have his laptop on. I'll just wait, Councillor Edwards, and I'll just read point 1 out for you.
Mm-hmm.
But you'd want that further extension. It's not their option, it's the collective option.
Yeah.
With an option, it's not there, it has to be a mutually agreeable option. I don't know how to word that.
Look, the
Subject to
reality is
council
in the base agreement, you just put the terms of how that option would be exercised. So
Yeah, I think
usually notice periods.
Everyone understands it's going to be with an option that both can want or not want.
With an option agreeable by both parties.
Yeah.
Yep, sure.
Yep.
I just have one more question. I'm not changing it. I'm not changing it. Can we, just a question, can we enter into this without going out to the community?
And that's why it's a non-exclusive agreement.
Okay.
So if anyone else wants to use that land, and of course, the only neighbour is council, so there is no one else. But it doesn't, what's the word I'm looking, quarantine that land. It's actually available for its current use, continuing.
Disconnect a trailer and swap it over and go again.
So we don't have to advertise it?
Yeah.
Perfect.
If it was an exclusive access agreement, or a lease or one of the other options, it would have to go out to tender because there might be other people who benefit.
Interesting.
But this doesn't actually take away anyone's rights beyond what their current rights.
Thank you, Director Null.
Right, Councillor Edwards, this is the last, I guarantee, last one. Number one, offer to enter into a non-exclusive access agreement for a period of 12 months with an option to extend for a further 12 months if agreeable to all parties over Lot 23 on CP 861824 with Nutrilink to enable more convenient road train access to lots 14 and 15. 2 and 3 are the same as I've read out before.
Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Berger, did you finish speaking to it?
No, I haven't started. You might have got mixed up with all them replays there. I've stopped the aircon, that's how much power I've got. So I think someone like Nutrilink and the Jones family, they employ 20 people in the town. They did purchase those other lots and they're really forward-thinking, forward-moving people. And I think any little help that council can give will just increase more economic growth in Mitchell. I take my hat off to these guys because they're making things happen.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak against or for the motion? I'll speak for the motion. I certainly believe as a powerhouse of operating locally is having our 5 areas really driving themselves, and I think this local business is an example of that. I do believe that we should not wait for someone to ride in on a white horse and solve all of our issues. I do believe local people in local areas that want to come and invest, council should be someone to support them. And I'd like every business, in this case in the Mitchell area and the greater Bringa operating area, that we can really make it feel that if they want to do something, come to council and we should be there to help. So I'll certainly be wholeheartedly supporting the access of this and anything we can do for local businesses, because if they all increase their workforce, it makes a massive difference in the total amount of jobs available in the area. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against? Does the move wish to sum up? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Any others, Kel? 13.2. Do we have any information on that one?
Not on this one.
I haven't got
Certainly,
13.2.
I'd like to get that.
If not, we can just keep going.
35 that is, sorry.
Certainly, apologies, I'm just.
I just thought the
All right. I got a conflict with that.
Just keep working on that.
Yeah, no, we'll keep going. We won't deal with that. I haven't got the info on that yet, so we'll keep going. We're on to the
13.5.
13.5, is it?
And I do have the information on them.
What page number?
349.
Thank you. Three, 4, 9. Do we have the info on that?
Mm-hmm.
Righto, well, we've got a conflict. So Councillor Burkett's leaving the room. Did we get get that info? Did you get
Yes,
something?
Yeah.
through the
Mr
chair.
Mayor, if I might explain.
Yes.
Earlier I said we had money allocated within each directorate for
Yep.
in-kind assistance. I was wrong. We have, the division is, the expenditure is recorded separately for each.
Ah, right,
Area.
okay.
At the moment, there's $85,000 in the budget for in-kind assistance, and we've spent 123 already. So we're well and truly over-expended in the in-kind assistance. Now, in this instance, I have some money in the parks and gardens area, in the maintenance of parks and gardens, that I can reallocate to the cost of removing the fence. So what we do, we'll cost it to the in-kind assistance so that our records are right that we did provide this much in-kind assistance, but when we do a budget review, we'll move some money out of the parks and gardens maintenance and into that area so that we keep everything balanced within the Baringa area.
Have we got a mechanism to top up that, well, maybe not on
Look,
notice, but to be able to top that up because it's just in-kind assistance? And
Certainly through your budget review, which will be in the next fortnight, you've got an
we
opportunity to
can
look
tweak
at
that number that's overdrawn or whatever, in theory.
So through the chair, we have actually adjusted the relevant ledgers as part of the recommendation for you.
Right, do we have anyone move on that?
You moved it.
Yeah, I'm happy to move that council agreed to assist the Mitchell Campdraft Association to clear and remove the existing fence between the recreational reserve and part of the stock route network to facilitate the erection of a new fence. 2, Mitchell Campdraft Association ensure that the new fence is erected on appropriate property, on the appropriate property boundary. 3, council allocate all costs estimated at no more than $1,000 to 0247.2014/community groups in-kind assistance with a transfer of funds from 2232.2014 Parks and Gardens maintenance at the upcoming budget review. 4, council make an appropriate allocation at council's Q3 budget review.
Mr Mayor?
Yes.
Dot point 4 is probably redundant now because we've covered
Right.
the last part of dot point 3.
Okay, well, I'll get rid of 4 then. So, do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, any?
Got a question.
Please go ahead.
Just Director Norm through the chair. You say that there's sufficient funds in. Kel, could you just scroll down for me?
The
Parks and Gardens. What is it?
There's $349,000 allocated for the parks and garden maintenance. We've spent $72,000 as at the 31st of December. So we've spent just over 20% of the annual allocation for the first 6 months.
No worries. Ample cash.
Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. I'll speak to the motion. Certainly very positive when we've got local sporting associations, in this case Mitchell Campdraft, being proactive and wanting to get new fences erected and so forth. So anyway, I believe council can support that. I believe it's very positive moving forward. Does anyone else wish to speak for or against? Councillor Taylor?
I'm gonna vote for the motion, but I just really don't like the idea of the fact that we're over budget, number one, and that we're taking away from parks and gardens. I mean, we obviously budgeted for it for a reason. So I will vote for it because I don't want the Mitchell Campdraft to miss out, but I just don't like the way we're doing it.
Look, through the chair, it's a sensible comment, Councillor Taylor. The reality is it is in-kind assistance, so we do actually have the staff. What we do as a matter of practice is to cost that so that the community know that contribution that the council's making back to the community. But in essence, we're using existing resources.
Yeah, I do understand and I will vote for it, but I'm just saying I just hate the fact that we've got to keep pinching from Peter to pay Paul, that's all.
Does anyone else wish to speak? Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
7-0. None others? Kel,
We'll only have one to come back to there today. Yeah, the rest are another meeting.
Okay, we're moving on to the late agenda.
The late open,
Late open.
Sorry.
Page 2L1, development application for material change of use for an agricultural supply store. File reference 2021/20399.
Do we need Danielle or Darren?
Okay. Righto, so we might just lay that on the table till later in the meeting. All those in favour?
Yes.
9-0, 8-0. Yeah, L2.
92, page 92.
Probably need Director Cam then for this one.
He's in the, Cam's working out of the, well, I think he is.
Director Norman.
Oh, is he?
Oh. Yeah,
L2. L2, Roma Echidna's request for in-kind assistance. Do we have any questions, councillors?
I do.
Councillor O'Neill.
Manager Ed, I've made the assumption, because it says in dot point 2, subject to construction of a double gate, that we may not be at a point to be able to fence along the highway as previously resolved by council.
So my understanding is, better push that on. Through you, Mr Mayor, my understanding is that the initial fence that was proposed, we went out to tender. I think it's going to cost about $90,000, which is 50 or 60K more than we expected.
Yep.
So I understand that's a temporary arrangements being made, which may precipitate a different gating arrangement.
Yep, okay.
Those potentially, Cameron may be able to add to that. I'm just talking about the fence at the Echidnas thing. Yeah, so that's subject to change. We're having a site meeting on Monday, we hope, just to finally rectify any last minute items, this one included.
But based on that, Mayor, I'm happy to move.
Yep, please go ahead.
I'll move the council, one, provide the requested in-kind assistance to the Roma Echidnas Rugby Club of undertaking trimming of trees on the Warragah Highway Road Reserve near the venue, subject to construction of a new double gate to the entry of the grounds, council spread gravel supplied by Roma Echidnas Rugby Club to the main access, assist with general mowing and whippersnipping of the grounds until the 11th of February 2022 to make the venue presentable for the upcoming Santos Festival of Rugby, remove the pile of power poles located between the rugby club house and the cricket ovals, and to allocate 3,438 to provide the assistance outlined in one above to in-kind assistance major budget general ledger 2887.2248.2001. Although we now face the same problem.
Well, no, it's explained. It's
Oh,
explained.
yeah, okay. No, happy with that.
The funding's explained.
Okay, we have a seconder, councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
I will. I think the support that we are providing is essential to work in with a community group, the Roma Echidnas Rugby Club, to showcase this facility. I can see that a power of work has already happened from a council perspective. I've spoken to the president of the Roma Echidnas, who expressed his thanks to the work that council is doing, in particular Director Cam, to make sure that it is a success in presenting one of our community assets out there on the highway. And I think what we've outlined here to assist them with will go a long way to ensure that it is aesthetically pleasing to look at on the day.
Does anyone else wish to speak? I'll certainly speak. I believe that that this is going to be great for rugby in the Maranoa. Certainly appreciate what Santos has done in this area, and also the council support that has been provided. And a great hope is that they have a much higher level of facility that will be a gift for the future of all of the adults and children that play rugby. So anything we can do to support sport, I believe, is very beneficial for the whole Maranoa. Does anyone else wish to speak? We'll go to the vote. Does the Mayor wish to sum up?
I do not.
All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. L1, development application for a material change of use for an agricultural supply store, file reference 2021/20399. I've just got a question to Manager Danielle. In relation to flooding, I know it's marked out in the report, so this is not going to make it worse in any way as far as we know, is that correct?
Correct, Mr Mayor. The applicant engaged an engineer to do an assessment as part of the application to look at any potential off-site impacts. Where they're proposing to locate the building on the site is more towards the area that isn't affected by flooding and then the lower hazard area. So they've submitted that engineering report to support the development.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors?
Got a question. Danielle, just with condition number 45, which is the landscaping of the site, it just references a mix of shrubs and ground covers. Have they provided a list of what they're planning on planting?
Through you, Mr Mayor, they haven't actually provided a detailed landscaping plan to us, only shown where the landscaping areas would be in the site. So no, we don't have species.
So just to follow up, if I can, over many years, residents have raised concerns about the look and the feel of coming into Roma from the east. I can see that their plans are to have substantial, plantings and shrubbery around there. I just would be hesitant, council, not to know what they are to ensure they're not planting something that may be poisonous or whatever, and oleanders come to mind, out on a public thoroughfare that people are using. What people do in their own private homes is up to them. But out there, I just, I think it would be appropriate for council to know what they were planning on putting there to ensure that it is, appropriate mix.
Through you, Mr Mayor, what we could do is amend the conditions to require them to submit a landscaping plan for council's approval before they commence those works. It is fairly common to condition that kind of thing. So if we're particularly interested in this site, it is a prominent location, as you say, so it's probably a good idea to do that.
Yeah. Would you need time in which to formulate that change?
I could circulate some amended wording to that effect to condition 45 if council's happy with that.
Right, any other questions, councillors?
Just through Mr Mayor. Manager Danielle, when you say the flooding, because I've had people ring me and get regards to when extra soil gets put on this block at times and they're worried about that making a difference. So when you say, where does the water run? Like, I've never been to that area when it's flooding. Does it more towards the back, or is it on the front footpath, or?
So currently the water runs, the front half of the block runs east and the back half runs south into the neighbouring property, and then eventually it all ends up in a drainage channel which is in that sort of recreation area to the east.
So as a result of this development, rather than the southern portion flowing to the south, it will all sort of be directed east, and then into that drainage channel.
Yeah, so it's got places to go, yeah.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Okay, so no other questions? Well, maybe I'll move that we lay this on the table till later in the meeting to get more information. Okay?
Wording you're talking about?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that, through the chair, couldn't you just put subject to a satisfactory landscaping plan or something like that? Or a landscaping plan to be provided to council prior to construction?
Yes, councillors, if you do want to amend the condition now, we can adjust
Do the
that
wording.
Yep.
Save you coming back.
We could probably just add on to what's there. A landscaping plan is to be submitted to council for approval.
Prior to construction?
Yeah.
Yep.
Prior to construction taking place.
Commencement of construction, yeah, something like that. Yep. Yep, that's fine.
I'm happy to move.
Righto, please go ahead.
I'll move the council approve the development application for a material change of use for an agricultural supply store at 4 Bowen Street and 2 to 4 Tiffin Street in Roma, described as Lot 1 on R8655 and Lots 1 and 2 on RP83834, subject to the listed relevant and reasonable development conditions and general advice 1 through to...
Well, we don't do that anymore, do we? We
No,
just
yeah.
go as
listed?
yeah, or
Yeah,
as
we-
follows, yeah.
Righto. I've made that mistake before.
We have a seconder, Councillor McMullen. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to the motion?
Well, I am supportive of this because it's an illustration of the commitment that this particular company has to investing in our community, and in particular Roma in this case. I think it will change the the aesthetics as they come into town with a development which is in a prominent location coming from the east, and all credit to them for looking at a new facility for their business.
Does anyone else wish to speak for or against? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay, so we might do conflicts before we go into close. Councillor Edwards, did you want to do yours?
Yes, thank you. Bear with me, please.
No problem.
Okay, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest. Sorry, I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in item C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party Post-Event Report. Description is Maranoa Christmas Street Post-Event Report, declaring councillor as Councillor Mark Edwards. Person with the interest is myself and Leichhardt Group. Particulars of interest is this declarable conflict of interest arise because I'm an employee of Leichhardt Group who leases a building in the main street, and I also sell oranges in the main street. Type of conflict is a declarable conflict of interest, and I'll leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on.
Councillor Taylor?
I'd like to declare a conflict of interest in C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party Post-Event Report. The declaring councillor is myself, Wendy Taylor. The person of interest is my daughter, Kylie Taylor. My daughter is a co-owner of Pete's Place, and Pete's Place was a sponsor of this event. It's a declarable conflict of interest, and although I have a declarable conflict of interest, I do not believe a reasonable person could have a perception of bias. Therefore, I will choose to remain in the meeting. However, I will respect the decision of the meeting on whether I remain and participate in the decision.
Oh, sheet of paper.
Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to move that it's in the public interest that Councillor Taylor participates and votes on agenda item C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party Post-Event Report, because a reasonable person would trust that the final decision was made in the public interest.
We have a seconder, Councillor Burkett. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
7-0.
I don't have to fill one out because I come third place in the eating competition.
Well, that's a thought.
You would have had to if you came first.
Yeah. Right, I will just adjourn for a minute. We'll be back soon. Okay. Okay, we're going to keep going with the meeting. Item C5, Maranoa Christmas Party Post-Event Report. I'm the declaring councillor, Councillor Tyson Golder. Person with the interest is myself, particularly of the interest I own a business, Golders, on the main street in Roma CBD, McDowell Street. I will declare that I'll declare a declarable conflict of interest, and I will leave the room while the matter is discussed and voted on. Okay, and asked if the Deputy Mayor...
Up to it, though.
No.
Oh, that's right, we're only doing that one. Yeah, okay, any other conflicts? No other conflicts? Righto, well...
I'll move.
Yep, please go ahead.
In accordance with the provisions of section 254J3 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the council closed the meeting to the public at 12:26 to discuss confidential items that its councillors consider is necessary to close the meeting. In accordance with section 254J5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the following table provides the matters to be discussed and an overview of what is to be discussed while the meeting is closed. C1, nomination of projects, Queensland Resilience and Risk Reduction Fund 2021 to 22. C2, renewal of lease term lease 0/240134 over lot 35 on WV1682. C3, claim for damages water. C4, request for reduction of planning application fees. File reference 2021-20470. C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party Post-Event Report. C6, update 14 Station Street, Roma Grain Shed. C7, Wallumbilla Waste Transfer Station Internal Review. That's it.
That's it.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Okay. Item 13.2, Cultural Heritage In-June Preservation Society, CHIPS, sponsorship and any kind of request for In-June Centenary.
I've got a conflict for that.
Okay, so...
Conflict?
And you left the room last time, didn't you? Or left the meeting?
Yes, I'll leave the room.
Right,
Okay.
we'll call you back when we're finished, okay? And I think Councillor Guthrie moved it, didn't she?
Yes, I did.
There's the new one on the screen.
Okay,
I'd like to move that Council 1 allocate, sorry, I'll start again. I'd like to move that Council allocate $8,000 cash sponsorship in the 2021/2022 sponsorship budget to the Cultural Heritage In-June Preservation Society to host the In-June Centenary celebration in June 2022. And 2, a maximum of $12,000 in the in-kind support budget reallocated from the ongoing assistance budget to sponsorship budget, $25,000 to the Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society to host the Injune. Oh,
It got deleted as you spoke.
I'll start number 2 again. Thanks, Kel. Number 2, a maximum of $12,000 in the in-kind support budget reallocated from ongoing assistance budget to sponsorship budget to the Cultural Heritage Injune Preservation Society to host the Injune Centenary celebration.
Okay, now is the second happy?
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
Righto, so that's the motion that we're going for. Does anyone wish to speak to the motion? Councillor Guthrie.
I'd like to say that there's been a lot of effort in the last couple of years to get this Injune Centenary celebration up and running, and it's going to be bigger than we have ever seen in the town of Injune. A lot of community support, so anything we can do to assist I think would be really well regarded, and I think would be very timely and advantageous.
Okay, does anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion? I certainly will. I believe the volunteers that drive this in Injune need to be supported. Congratulate them on all their efforts with this centenary, and they have been patient for many, many years. Now, finally, Chips will be getting their building, and anything that we can do, and with this celebration, I hope that we can support really volunteers for putting an enormous amount of effort to really focus on the history and sharing that, as well as celebrating Injune and the region, as we are doing with this celebration. Does anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, thank you. I would just like to once again congratulate the volunteers who have organised this celebration for Injune, and I just really like to wish them all the very best for a successful event in June.
Councillor Burkett.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that too. When you see the calibre of people organising and the list, it's you know it's going to be a good show, and I just wish them all the best too, and I can't wait to attend.
Okay, anybody else wish to speak? Well then, does the move wish to sum up?
No, I just would like to say that the place to be in June next year will be in June.
Okay.
Corny.
It works.
We're going to go to the vote on that. All those in favour?
7-0.
7-0. Okay, if we can call, can someone call Councillor Edwards? We'll just adjourn for a minute with the meeting.
Okay,
Ron?
thank you.
Thank you. C1, nomination of projects Queensland Resilience and Risk Reduction Fund 2021-22, Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that I'll move the council submit an expression of interest for the following projects under the Queensland Resilience and Risk Reduction Fund 2021-22. Infrastructure and community assets. A, supply and installation of advanced electronic warning signage, Ashburn Road Diversion Channel, Miss Campbell Street East and Bungle Street. And B, Rain River Station on Mugger Creek, Bungle Creek catchment. And non-infrastructure assets. C, Amby Flood Stormwater Management Review. And D, Roma Flood Mitigation Next Stage Detailed Modelling and Design. 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or Delegate to sign the submission forms and any further expression of interest agreements as required.
I'll second that.
Okay, Councillor Edwards. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. C2, renewal of lease term lease on 0/240134 over lot 35 on WV 1682. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move the council advise the Department of Resources. 1, the land is still required for its gazetted purpose. 2, on the expiry of term lease 0/240-134, council recommends that a permit to occupy be issued as the reserve is located on a section of the road as the purpose proposed to be upgraded as a primary stock route.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor McMullen, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. C3, claim for damages, water. Do we have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that council reimburse the claimant the amount of $240 being the cost to replace filters quoted by Total Coffee on the following conditions. A, council and the claimant acknowledge that council are not legally liable for the incident. B, the claimant agrees to accept the amount of $240 as full and final settlement of all claims arising from the alleged incident on 28th of October 2021.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Taylor, any? Sorry, Councillor Hancock, what was it?
Just no one, Mr Mayor, because there's no two, so.
Righto, so the seconder happy with that?
Yes.
Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. C4, request for reduction of planning application fees, file reference 2021/20470. Kel, was there anything in the last meetings? Nothing?
Through you, Ms Mayor, I did go back. It was presented at the ordinary meeting on the 24th of November where it was laid on the table. It didn't come back to the meeting in December, so this is the first time it's...
So there was nothing, yeah. I'd like to move the council accept the reduction of the application fee, to the amount of $1,000 for the development proposal located at 63 Arthur Street, Roma, reference 2021/20470. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Guthrie. Any opposition?
Just a question.
Please go ahead.
I believe that there was a reason that the officer's recommendation was for the amount in with.
Well, the officer actually said what they needed to go off was the recommendation amount, but obviously council can go outside that. So they had to come up with a fee that they could do as officers, and that's what that fee was.
Because of, we have to be able to justify
No,
why we're setting that fee.
I've got a reason to justify, and we'll do that in the debate, and afterwards when we give statement of reasons.
Okay.
But when the officer was there this morning, she actually said that that is the amount which is the closest to the fees that they could, as an officer, make a recommendation on. Righto, so we have a move and a second. I'll speak for the motion. This, I believe, is a matter of economic development and economic development in the region. As it was explained, the repairer certainly looks after different levels of people that may not be able to afford, large repair bills. So I believe Ron Auto Repair does look after those people and does a major benefit for economic development in the region by looking after a sector of our community, not just them, but including them, that really benefits from having Ron operating his business. He also has said that this is an opportunity to increase his business and be able to service more people. So I believe this is a win-win all the way around, and that's why I'm putting forward this amount as for the development proposal fee. Does anyone wish to speak against the motion? Councillor Taylor.
I'm just really surprised that you named that amount, because this is a private business, and although, okay, it's an economical benefit that he's doing what he's doing, that's how he's around the business in town. I believe the officer's recommendation was fair. I thought it was well thought out. They had their reasons for naming the price that's in the officer's recommendation, so I just believe you just taken it too far.
And does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm loath to speak against this because I get the argument that this is good for our local economy. In particular, it's good for Hawthorn Street to have this particular premises occupied. But I think the argument that Councillor Taylor has just articulated is a good one. That the officer recognised, I can only imagine, recognised the concerns, the debate, the discussion that we had briefly late last year, and has gone away and come back with a reduced fee and a fair fee and a justifiable fee. And I think the reduction of some 75% is too much. I'm, as I said, I'm loath to not support it. I don't want the proprietor to think that I don't support their business. I do. I just think this is a too great a reduction.
Okay, does anyone wish to speak for the motion or against the motion? Righto, and then I'll sum up. I certainly did, speak to the applicant here, and I do believe there's underlying benefits for economic development and also in equity issues, and I do believe that this is very beneficial, and I do believe that the reason that recommendations can be sometimes different, but that's also because officers have a different set. Then it comes to council. Councillors represent the community. I believe the community would want us to support this motion because I think it's got the best benefit for economic development and equity as far as residents living in the Maranoa. So on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against?
You've got 4-4.
4-4, and I'll use my casting vote in favour. Okay, and as far as statement of reasons, I will give that that this will create extra economic development and also improved social affordability. Okay, so Deputy Mayor, would I ask if you could,
Okay, yeah.
we're dealing with C5.
Right, I'm out of the room as well.
You already are.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, both the Mayor and Councillor Edwards have left the room. Item number C5, Maranoa Christmas Street Party Post-Event Report. Do I have a mover, please? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move the council one, note the report is presented. 2, consider an allocation of $15,000 in the 2022-23 budget for council to host the 2022 Maranoa Christmas Street Party. further consider reducing the length of McDowell Street closure for the 2022 event, and consider a different approach to the future Shop Local campaigns.
Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Taylor, is there any opposition to the...
Can I make a suggestion?
Yes, Councillor Hancock.
Consider a different approach or a, I know we're only considering it, but it doesn't,
Updated.
Updated, I wonder would be a better word than different, an updated
Consider an
approach?
updated approach to the future Shop Local campaigns.
Okay, both the move and the second are happy with that? Yes. Okay, anyone else wish to speak for or against the motion?
I want to speak.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
As the mover.
Yeah, sorry.
I just want to put on the record my thanks to the staff for the work that they put into making this a success. The feedback on the night was nothing but positive. I personally love being involved. I saw not just the involvement of the economic development team, and impressive as they were in their shirts, it was the involvement by councillors as well, playing different roles on the night to support what is has turned out to be a great event on the Roma calendar. In the days after, I have had, in those days, I had nothing but positive comments from the community as well. That it was great to have an event of that scale coming out of the back of a fairly difficult 12 months in the business community, but a difficult 12 months in the community as well with the lockdowns and the impact of COVID. So there was a real sense, I felt it and people expressed it, a sense of community on the night, and it was wonderful to see. And so I said this 2 years ago when it was first brought to council that this will be an ongoing council event. It will be forever now, and I think we can get behind it and support it as much as we can. And I want the staff to know how appreciative this council is of the work that they put in. Long hours leading up to it and a long night to make it a success. So I'm very pleased to be able to move the resolution.
Anyone else want to speak for or against? Councillor Burgett?
I just want to speak for it. I think it was a great night. I just want to follow on from Councillor O'Neill. I think also the Parks and Gardens and the town gangs would have been heavily involved with traffic control and getting there. I think special mention to those guys as well.
Anyone else to comment? Councillor Hancock?
Yeah, Mr Mayor, Mr Mayor, Deputy Mayor, thank you. I just, I too want to pass on my congratulations. And the thing that I love the most about these community events is where you can actually see teams from within council working so well together. It gives opportunity to bring those teams across council, that opportunity to come together and work together for the benefit of the community. Not only did it provide that opportunity for our staff and our teams across council, it is wonderful when council partners with community to put on such a successful event for the community. And so I just want to actually add my congratulations to not only our council staff right across the teams that were involved with this, but also to the community members who actually put input into this and took time from their busy operating their own businesses to actually put back into the community and be part of such a wonderful event for our region. So thank you so very much.
Anyone else wish to speak?
Well, it's all been said, really. But apart from that, the other thing I'd like to just mention is the great business houses and the sponsors that got behind it. Like they're just amazing too when you have a look at who gave what and all that. So good on a really good effort from everybody.
Anyone else? Councillor Guthrie?
I'll just finish off by saying it was amazing to be there well after 9 o'clock, after closing time, and see that people were still there. In the past, people have come for a short period of time, but for them to be there for the whole evening and to even then linger after the events were finished was amazing.
I'd just like to thank everyone involved, in particular the council staff that put a fair bit of time and effort into it. So to move on to sum up?
Just to sum up, and I think it's wonderful that we've all contributed, in some way, and thanking the myriad of people that were involved. It was remiss of me though, and I'm pleased you touched on it, Councillor Taylor, the ongoing support of key businesses that have backed this, and not just businesses that are in the main CBD of Roma. There's businesses right across the Roma business community that have got behind this because they see the value in the community coming together and stimulating the local economy as one outcome, but also as a community, celebrating the start of the Christmas, period. So all credit to those businesses that come on board, and I look forward that we have a long association with the business community making this a success year in, year out.
Okay, well then with that all said, I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour? 6-0. Can someone get on to Councillor Edwards?
I'll get on to
Find the mayor.
Edwards. Two to go.
You can tell when you're in a hurry and move it along.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, so am I.
Three to go.
Okay, what do I think of this?
Oh, it's page 60.
Thank you. C6, update 14 Station Street, Roma, grain shed. I'd like to move that council we just got a glitch on the screen, so we're just for the people watching. The enjoyment of computers.
Technology.
We'll just adjourn for a minute. We'll keep going on with the meeting. So I was going to move that Council 1 note the report as presented to, and 2, that Council understands the urgency of the matter for GrainCorp and accordingly write to the CEO of GrainCorp to provide a progress update and advise Council's next steps. Do we have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak?
Just a question.
Yes.
Are the next steps what is outlined in the report?
Yeah,
what
correct.
everybody's
Which is
thinking
waiting
here?
for the valuation and and then obviously you've got the other things in there. Do you want to put in there about the court, the queue? Well, we really got to get that valuation first before we can do the next steps. Do you want any more clarity in there or?
No, I was just making sure that we all understand what the next step is.
Yeah, so really it's about the valuations and then obviously it's come back to council. Okay.
So just it's not plural then, it's only one step, it's evaluation. Advise of council's next step.
Well, the valuers are meeting all that, so then that'll come back. Yeah,
Yes.
so we can take the S off if you would like to. And we know it's going to come back to council, so that's pretty common sense. Okay, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
All those against?
So that's 6.
Okay, 6-2, if I can call for a division. Okay, moving on. C7, Wallumbilla Waste Transfer Station, internal review. I'd like to move that council receive the correspondence from the adjoining landowner expressing concerns with the proposed location of the new waste transfer station. And then, is that both got to be one, or has that got to be two, Kel? Two? Two? 2, authorise the Chief Executive Officer or delegate to write to the Minister for Regional Development Manufacturing, seeking to obtain a portion of Lot 22, Lot 220 on SP 309835 for the purposes of constructing a new waste transfer station at the Wallumbilla Waste Facility. B, make representations via written correspondence, and I probably should put written correspondence to the Minister. I'd like to put in there, and for the Mayor to contact the Minister about it. So what's the best way to put that in?
Yeah, I'm just having a look at that. So just in part 2, we changed the Minister in the first part, Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing. I note that the second part is when we're using the reference to the Minister for Resources, do we mean we're actually writing to both the Minister for Regional Development and the Minister for Resources?
Actually, the first one I believe needs to say that we write to seeking, to do the Minister for Regional Development and Manufacturing and ask for advocacy.
Yeah, okay. Seeking their assistance in relation to the potential purchase or acquisition, is it? To the potential acquisition of a portion of Lot 220 on SP 309835, okay. Acquisition, just a bit of a typo there. AQUISIT. Terrific. Okay. Now, so in Part B, you're making representation to the Minister for Resources seeking support for council in relation to. So are we asking the Minister for Resources to directly, and that we're the Minister for Regional Development to actually assist? So in other words, the Minister for Regional Development is coming with us or providing a letter of support for our potential acquisition, and then we actually make representation directly.
Yeah, I'd like to do the first stage first, which is the Minister for Regional Development first.
Yes,
and then
that makes sense.
they might give us advice on the best way to do it or whatever.
Certainly. And the second part is saying that you actually want to make personal representation. So in this particular
to
Part
the
B,
Minister, actually, this is to the
Yes.
Minister for Regional Development. I'd personally contact him once the correspondence has gone out.
Okay.
But I don't know if it needs to have, like, once it's owned by council, if this is supported, you make the call.
Just so council understands that that's what I'll be doing, that's all.
Yeah, but I mean, what
It
happens?
doesn't need to be in there, is that what you're saying?
Well, because it could be a circumstance where any one of us comes in contact with the minister. Well, we should be empowered to all have that conversation if that presented itself. So I wouldn't single anyone out.
Right. So as long as I understand, that's what I'm planning to do. So, okay. So does it make sense now, or?
Well, no, we've still got two different ministers in A and
So
B.
one is an advocate and the other we're directly going to the other agency. And I guess the wording in B is, are we seeking support or we're actually wanting to
Well, first, what I'd like to do is first start with Minister for Regional Development.
Yep.
Speak to them, ask for advocacy.
Yes.
And then we need enough in the motion to allow us to
Sure.
write the other letters.
Sure. So through the chair, would part B be improved by saying make representation to the Minister for Resources instead of seeking support for approval for council to obtain a portion of? Is that what we're really doing at part B? We're actually saying, actually, we'd like the state to approve our acquisition of a portion of lot 220.
Yeah, because we'll first talk to the Regional Development Minister and then get a way forward.
So make representation to the Minister for Resources seeking approval
Yes,
for council
exactly,
to
that's better.
obtain a portion.
Yes, that would be better.
So to be changing for to seeking.
Yeah,
Kel?
through the chair, Councillor O'Neill, that's better. Maybe you don't need to specify that through the chair.
Righto.
Yep.
So seeking, Kel, instead of for, after resources. Yep.
Righto. So I might just read that again for Councillor Edwards' benefit. Well, the first...
I can actually see it. I can actually see it now.
Oh, can
Thank
you?
you.
Great. I don't need to. We all
Nope.
everyone can see it, so we understand.
Yep.
Do we have a seconder for that motion? Did we have one?
Actually.
Councillor O'Neill. Any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? I'll speak to it. I believe that if we're looking at the best long-term value for council, we need to look at trying to get a result in this, which will be the lowest cost for council. It also would improve the amenity, I believe, for residents that live in the area. And I believe it's a win-win in every way. So I think if we can put all our resources and ask our friends in state government to help us with that, and especially the minister, then I believe we've got a good chance of having common sense prevail, and this will be a benefit in our waste issues that we have in that area. Oh, that's right. Didn't I say that? No. Okay, well, we better do that. 3, be presented with, so this is the third point that I'm going to move and ask if the second is happy. Be presented with the subsequent report if the current local roads and community infrastructure phase 1 funding is at risk of non-expenditure by 30th of June 2022 due to the negotiations associated with the direction outlined in dot point 2 above. So is the seconder happy?
I'm right with that. Yep.
Right, so Councillor Burkett.
I just want to also acknowledge the work that's gone in, not only by the staff, but the community engagement. I think it was good between council and the local community with the Wallumbilla Town improvement and the residents. I think hopefully it'll be a good result for all involved.
Okay, righto, does anyone else wish to speak for or against? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Is there any further business, councillors?
Everything else is laid on the table.
Righto. So there's nothing we've got to deal with today? So.
We've been through it all.
The only thing I just want to raise is our next meeting is scheduled to be in Mitchell.
That's right.
And given the current movement around COVID, I flagged this with the councillors this morning before we started, should we be revisiting this, not to cancel it, but postpone us going to Mitchell until we've got through the peak that they're talking about in COVID cases?
So how many weeks away is it at the moment?
2 weeks. 2 weeks away. And that's about the time that they're talking about Queensland peaking.
I don't mind if my personal view, I don't mind if we shift it back as long as we do it, so Mitchell doesn't miss out. But
so even if we, in the first instance, delayed it a month just to reassess, then, because you imagine if we picked up the council meeting and went in there and then, there was a spike in cases in Mitchell, or maybe people may not attend the meeting because of the current situation.
So do we have to move that, or can we, what's the situation? Should we move some while we're still in the meeting, or?
That's why I raised it, because we've resolved to do it.
Yeah, correct.
I'm not saying we cancel it, just postpone it a month.
Can we do that? How do we do that if we've resolved to do so?
Look, through the chair, just I think a resolution just moving that because the dates will be the same, it's just that the location will be different. So it's just that council will hold its next meeting scheduled for, what is it, the 2nd or the 8th of February to be held in Roma due to COVID.
Councillor O'Neill saying postpone it for a month or to...
You'll still have your meeting,
postpone
you
the
just change the
location, like
location.
Yeah.
The first ordinary meeting in March,
Yes.
we go to Mitchell.
To swap.
We still meet.
Yeah, no, that's right, yeah.
Yeah, what Madam CEO is
So,
saying
look,
is
just words to that effect, that council hold its next meeting dated the 8th of February 2000 in Roma due to COVID implications. That's very good, thanks Kelly. And that the subsequent meeting, March meeting be held in Mitchell.
That's the 9th, Wednesday, the 9th of March, is that?
Thank you. The subsequent meeting on the 9th of March, subsequent ordinary meeting on
Won't
the
be
9th of March.
subsequent, it'll be the first ordinary
23rd,
meeting of
yeah.
March.
Yes, thank you
be
very
held
much.
in Mitchell.
Sorry, I'm still thinking monthly, aren't I?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, does someone want to move that?
I'm happy to move it.
Righto. So did you want to just read that out?
I'll move that council will hold its next meeting on the 8th of February 2022 in Roma due to the COVID implications, and that the first ordinary meeting in March be held in Mitchell.
Okay, do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Taylor, any opposition? Does anyone wish to speak to it? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour?
Yes.
8-0. Any further business, councillors?
No.
I'll close the meeting at 3:16 p.m. and thank you for your attendance.